About a year and a half ago, I released my Fallout 4 The Dragonborn video, and subsequently brought upon myself hundreds of requests to play through various games as different characters. Since then, I've completed modded playthroughs, allowing myself to gain access to weapons and armour that made me into the Master Chief, as well as everyone's favourite emancipator, President Lincoln, as I put an end to slavery. One request that has consistently popped up time and time again will now finally get its own video, as I ask the question, can you beat Fallout 4 as the Doomslayer? Much like the Master Chief video, I'm going to be a big man in heavy green power armour that has access to multiple weapons. In other words, there is probably going to be nothing challenging about this whatsoever, but considering how highly requested the run has been, there's no way I couldn't do it. Speaking of weapons, I can use anything that's appeared in the Doom series, specifically anything that the Doomslayer has used before, so miniguns and shotguns for example will no doubt be my main weapons going forward. I did decide not to use pistols though, just because I thought that'd be kinda boring. My fists will also be a viable weapon given the whole ripping and tearing situation. Finally, I will be using the Doomslayer items pack from the Creation Club to gain access to the armour as well as the BFG down the line somewhere. This also has two very basic and short quests tied to it, so I'll need to complete those for the run as well. Now with all that out of the way, let's begin. Never have I had an easier time assigning special stats as I did right here. The Doomslayer is abnormally strong, tough and fast, so to display that here, I maxed out strength and endurance, and then dropped the remaining points into agility. The look of the character is actually unimportant, even though we do know what he looks like, but the thing is, I'm going to be wearing a helmet for 99% of the playthrough, so it really doesn't matter. Just so you know, I did in fact increase the muscle triangle to max. Leaving the vault, and like some sort of demonic magic, the Doom Marine armor and helmet immediately spawn in my inventory. Is it just a little bit overpowered that we are going to begin the game with this? Yes, absolutely. But if you ask me, feeling overpowered is part of the Doom experience, so it all checks out. Sanctuary was my first stop because it's still Fallout 4 at the end of the day, and I made sure to grab the I'm Special book and put the point into agility. The idea was that I wanted an agility of 6 so I could take the moving target perk, so that increases my damage and energy resistance while sprinting. A big part of Doom is of course trying to stay on the move when things get hectic, so I wanted to try my best to replicate that here. While my fists are a very viable option for reducing people to paste, I barely have to walk 20 feet before I'm able to grab a short double-barreled shotgun off the dead raider just outside of Sanctuary. I do the right thing and after retrieving it, turn it into a longbow at the Red Rocket workbench, as well as increasing its damage just a little thanks to the supplies that I was able to find. I christen it with its appropriate name and get to work looking for ammo. Fortunately for me, the nearby raiders are more than willing to part with their shotguns and ammo once I remind them just how much the human skeleton hates solid concrete. A good chunk of the early game raiders carry shotguns, so until I level up past the point where they would normally stop using them, ammo should be rather plentiful. Plus, let's not kid ourselves, I am stripping the raiders of all their supplies, so I may trade them in for shotgun shells anyway, as I'm quite fond of having more ammo than is necessary. One shot was all each raider could withstand, so before long I was ignoring Preston's cries for help as I tore the minigun off the vertebra with my bare hands due to my ungodly strength. The encounter with the raider reinforcements and Deathclaw is fairly by the numbers, as after all the only real difference here is that this time I lack the rusty power armor. I did get tossed around ever so briefly by the Deathclaw, but thanks to the high numbers of the Doom Marine set, the Deathclaw must abide by the rules of warfare and set me ever so gently back on the ground instead of turning me into a human skewer. After looting the bodies, I have 43 shells to my name, which is wonderful, but again, I am greedy, so I trade in some of the supplies to Carla down the road to get just a few more. I put them to use within seconds to swipe the smug look off of Wolfgang's face. It was around here that I began pondering a few things, such as what perks am I going to unlock going forward, and who to side with for the main quest. Well, in terms of perks, other than making sure agility was high enough for me to get the moving target like I previously mentioned, I figured increasing intelligence to 3 would also be worthwhile. By Fallout logic, that's at least how smart Doom Guy must be, as that's the intelligence level required to modify weapons, and if I want the shotgun to continue being viable, grabbing said perk would be almost mandatory alongside Rifleman. As for which faction though? Well, the Brotherhood of Steel seem to make the most sense, as after all they look the most like the Night Sentinels, plus they have a similar mindset of the best way to get around a problem is with superior firepower. That said, what's a night without a castle, so at the very least, while I will be following the Brotherhood, I want to progress the Minutemen story up to the point where we take the castle. That means it's time for some settlement gathering, and fortunately it doesn't take all that long if you're not aiming on completing their entire questline. Starlight nearby is claimed in seconds as mole rats, irradiated or otherwise, have no defense against hot lead. Next was Abernathy Farm, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. To a degree. Taking the settlement for ourselves is of course important, but so is making our way to the satellite station and brutally blasting away any and all raiders for ammunition, Most important of all being Ak as a way to almost double our minigun rounds after taking her ammo and weapon. If anyone is wondering why I don't just build ammo with an ammo station, simply put, that requires at least 1 point in the science perk, and I didn't exactly feel like dumping so many levels into intelligence just to reach that point. I would much rather just focus on things such as gun nut, rifleman and heavy gunner. Anyway, after listening to Preston's spiel for the 100th time, it's off to 10 Pines Bluff, and by proxy the Corvega assembly plant. A close quarters environment, early game raiders, and a substantial amount of shotgun shells. I think we know how this encounter went. Next up was Sunshine Tidings, as expected, so I finally get to put the shotgun to use and kill some actual demons. They are fairly squishy and barely fight back. Especially this one I encounter on the road, who I nicknamed General Oliver, as I also got a lot of enjoyment throwing him off the side of the dam. Oberlin Station would no doubt be the next settlement unable to grasp the situation of the world they live in, so I began heading south, not specifically for Oberlin mind you, but I know Grey Garden is on the way, and I figured ridding the water treatment plant of mutants and demonic crabs seemed fitting for the run. I got mildly distracted on the way, and I don't just mean my cleansing of the raiders inside the Federal ration stockpile, although that was a very fun time, but rather I continued going south so that I may mark Fort Hagen on the map for later. FYI, this will not be the last time I do something like this in this playthrough. Arriving at the water treatment plant and there are missiles and bullets flying in every which direction, so much so that I clearly was not thinking straight when I decided to pull the trigger on the violent Pinata mutant when he was sitting within spitting distance of me, resulting in an early grave for the Doomslayer. Next try and I make use of the fact that guns are indeed ranged weapons and take down the explosive mutant from a safer distance. The rest of them aren't much trouble, a few shots to the head and they tend to stop moving. I will say that's probably down to the fact that there's only base suit mutants here, like there's no butchers or brutes in sight. The one rounding around with the missile launcher was initially an issue, but he blew through all of his ammo so fast that he had to resort to using a hunting rifle instead, which in close quarters stood absolutely zero chance against the super shotgun. It was only once I made my way inside and began slaughtering the crabs that it occurred to me that I probably should have grabbed said missile launcher, as the Doom games do of course have rocket launchers, so it is technically viable. To jump ahead a bit, I never once had the idea again to go back and use one, so this was sort of a moot point. I was initially worried about how to deal with the Mirelurks, but if you just wait for them to attack, they leave themselves wide open to a counterattack, and if you use VATS, you're almost guaranteed 2 headshots. Even though I have yet to make it to Grey Garden, I do fix the facility, and this has some slightly altered dialogue with the supervisors, as they somehow just know it was me who saved the day. I won't ask how, as I don't particularly care, so now I was off to Oberland, which should be the final settlement before we get the castle quest. As I have yet to discover most of the map, the settlers just send me to Backstreet of Peril, as that is their default quest if you haven't already cleared the place out. Not paying attention to the mutant and crab slaughter, I had only enough shells left to deal with the turrets outside. No matter, the Doomslayer was born with 2 hands, and he's pretty good at using them as weapons. To really get that Berserk mode experience from Doom, I inject myself with Psycho to speed up the process. Sadly, Fallout 4 does not give me the option to ram my fingers into somebody's chest and turn them into a set of saloon doors, so for now we will just have to be content with this little jump punch. I wasn't exactly able to replenish my shells like I thought, so I made a detour up the road to Diamond City to purchase what I could from Percy, Myrna, and Arturo. Selling all of the armor, weapons, and ammo from what I've killed so far results in me getting a lot more money than I would have expected, so I decided to blow the vast majority of it on Argent cells for the BFG. Yes, I am aware I still do not have the gun, but as expected, after reporting my success to Oberlin Station, Preston begins running east for the castle, and considering I now have a mandatory fight with a Mirelurk Queen on the horizon, I figured now would be the best time to get some high-powered ordnance. As I said, there's a small quest to obtain the BFG, if you can even call it that. Simply put, I need to travel to the glowing sea and rip it from the cold dead hands of a fellow named Mercy. Heading south from Fort Hagen gets me there rather quickly. It wasn't exactly the mostly danger-free journey that I'm usually blessed with, as this time I was attacked by both Deathclaws and Rad Scorpions. Granted, the Rad Scorpions did strike up a mandatory truce with me to take down the Deathclaw, which I was able to do thanks to the minigun and the extra rounds I procured from Ak. I then turned it on one of the nearby Scorpions when I was finished, and brought the same type of justice to them as well. Turns out I didn't even need the minigun for the Rad Scorpions, as a few close quarter shotgun blasts to the head was more than enough to do the trick. I don't know why I'm continuously surprised that a shotgun in close proximity to one's brain is doing this much damage, but I suppose I just assumed the creatures down here would prove a lot more challenging for me, considering I'm still at level 10. Mercy wasn't all that bad, even though he may have killed me the first time. I feel that was more down to a jittery trigger finger, as no one in their right mind would fire that thing when someone was within hugging distance. Next attempt, and I made use of a crit that I'd been saving for this very moment, and as it was also a headshot, it was indeed another one-shot kill. I then took the weapon and put it to use in some of the local wildlife, Shocker, it's really freaking good. Almost too good in fact, as the blast radius is deceptively large at times, nearly killing me every time I fire the damn thing. Just like earlier with Fort Hagen, as I am in the area, I decided to pop in and pay Virgil a visit. Unfortunately, I appear to have just missed him. What a shame. Alright, this is usually the part where I say enough getting distracted, and then I would go to the castle. Except that didn't happen, because while I was heading east, I walked right into Swans Pond and just had to put the BFG to good use. I mean, Swan and the Mirelurk Queen are the closest thing we get to demons in the base game, so they have to die. Thing is, I didn't exactly stop at Swan, because after all, what's right next to Swan? That's right, Park Street Station, so naturally I have to make my way through there, demonstrating my improved firepower over the suit-wearing demons until I can fight my way to Nick. I know I said firing the BFG in close quarters was a very bad idea, but how could I not use it against Skinny Malone? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Alright, with Nick free and heading back to Diamond City alone, surely now I'm going to begin heading Actually no, I'm heading north for some reason. I wonder why I'm heading north. Okay, now I finally made my way to the castle to begin the crab crushing competition. Just like in the water treatment plant, baiting the crabs into attacking so I can get the headshot in VATS is by far the easiest way to take them down, as well as the most ammo efficient. I then scramble some eggs for a bit before Mother Crab comes along to see what all the ruckus is about. Like the good leader I am, I let Preston distract the thing while I land a critical BFG shot to the Queen's face. Surprisingly, this did not kill her, so I had to fire 2 more follow-ups to bring her to low health. She nearly kills me in the process, but thankfully, I have collected several healing supplies to keep myself safe. Shooting again at this range would kill us both, and as dramatic as that would be, we aren't at the end of the game yet, so I just swap over to the minigun to drain her of her last bit of health, and live to fight another day. With that, I have completed everything I wanted to for the Minutemen side of things, meaning I should probably go and see about helping out Dance before I get distracted again. For once, I am able to get the majority of the kills when coming to Dance's aid, as he spent most of the fight sitting on the ground waiting for his batteries to recharge. Once the ghouls are out of the picture, we chat for a bit before heading off to Arcjet. The synths are a little bit more resilient than your common raider, and for some reason, they have a much smaller chance to headshot them when in VATS. I'm not quite sure why that's the case, but it's something I've actually noticed consistently throughout multiple playthroughs. They may not be demons, but that does not stop me from cleansing them with holy fire before proceeding to the final room and gunning my way through the last of them to grab the deep range transmitter. Paladin Dance, noticing my bloodlust and very successful murder spree, absolutely begs me to join the Brotherhood. I of course agree, and then I immediately leave him on red as I make my way back to Diamond City to rush past the next interview so that we can get to the really important questions like what goes better with Kellogg's cereal, milk, or highly concentrated green balls of energy. I have absolutely no idea how we're getting a brain implant after that, but miraculously, he is completely intact. Well, after rooting around the skull, we get what we need and it's back to Diamond City, and from there the memory den. There's not a lot of interesting things to say here, this is the memory den after all. Next would of course be the glowing sea, but I was a smart little Doomslayer today and can just fast travel back there immediately to keep the pace going. This means it's time to hunt down the Courser, so it's time to take a blood-fueled jog through Green Tech. I decided to switch things up here for a while and swapped out the super shotgun for the minigun. Both would have worked just as well, and it's not like the shotgun was low on ammo, I literally just felt like using the minigun. It may have something to do with the fact I was getting flashbacks and the sheer enjoyment I had when I was coming through here in the Shredder video, but who can say. Not having to get right in someone's face to do maximum damage is nice, I will admit. It also means I am at no risk of being atomized by the missile launcher gunner, which is always a plus in my book. And yes, once again I walked right over the missile launcher and did not pick it up, because I am a fool. It probably would have helped in the Courser fight if I'm being honest. Yeah, the BFG works too, but considering I had more than a few attempts to end because I blew myself up along with him, playing it slow and steady may have ironically been faster. Props to the Courser though, it took 2 of them going off next to him to put him down for good, which is more than can be said for most. With the chip in hand, next comes analysing it with the help of Tinker Tom's corpse, and then it's off to build the teleporter. Of course, before we can do that, I will need to clear out Fort Strong for the Brotherhood. And before I do that, I want to take part in this so-called deathmatch. It's not really a deathmatch per se in traditional video game sense, more so it's a last man standing competition, as we all only have one life after all. Not that any of it matters, as all but one of them are a complete joke. The only champion worth talking about is the one with the unique weapon Thunderbolt, and that's only because it really packs a punch, plus it's a weapon from Quake, and that's pretty damn cool. Sadly, as it's from Quake, not Doom, we cannot use it. But at the very least, when I do manage to kill him and take it for my own, I know that I can at the very least sell it to fuel my shotgun shell addiction. Okay, so I think I've procrastinated long enough. I finally make it back to the police station, probably confusing Dance in the process given how much time has passed, and then the two of us flap to the mothership where after some more mandatory walking and talking, we can get down to business to defeat the mutants. In what is a first for me in any of these runs, we can actually take the vertibird to Bort Strong, as I'm allowed to use the minigun. And in another first, for some odd reason, said vertibird is not on the Prydwen, but rather it's sitting next to a boat just outside the airport. We should not question the ways of the Todd, because clearly he sees things in a different way we can just not comprehend. Anyway, I'm able to use the minigun on the vertibird to take out the behemoth, as well as a couple of stragglers, before the pilot decides to toss me out because he wants this to be a bit more difficult. I am back to using the super shotgun as the minigun in my back pocket is pretty low on ammo after the slaughter, and for some reason I have just had the absolute worst time trying to find any more ammo for it this run, outside of Akak as previously mentioned. Not that I am really complaining, as you can see the double barrel shotgun continues to get the job done thanks to having the relevant damage perks, plus by this stage it's been fully upgraded with its available damage mods. Yet again, I am my own worst enemy as I ignore my own advice and fire the BFG indoors. It cripples me a little, but thankfully no deaths this time. From here, it's basically just the Brotherhood's quest as normal. Building the teleporter went smoothly, which doesn't sound like much, but I was kind of neglecting picking up supplies other than the stuff to upgrade my weapons, so I'm just happy we don't have to engage in a Doomslayer shopping spree. Against my better judgment, I do not paint the room with Father's blood, but instead play along introducing myself to the other leaders of the Institute, as I promise to bring Dr. Lee back to the Brotherhood to fix up our death robot. That said, I am less charismatic than a blade of grass, so I had to convince the Doctor of my intentions another way, which, this being Fallout 4, means shooting things. Particularly some robots this time around. Really, she just wants some proof of what happened to Virgil, and after snuffing the fake life out of some nearby Assaultrons, we can find a recording to do just that. With Dr. Lee convinced to leave, we follow suit, meaning it's back to base where after a little bit of running around, I buy some high-powered magnets and build some actuators. Building these isn't enough to get Prime ready, so it's off to everyone's favourite glowing green Wonderland, and unfortunately, I do not mean Fallout 3. The ghouls are great for shotgun kills as they practically do half the work for me when they sprint in my general direction at Mach 4 and dive head first into the barrel of the gun. The Assaultron at the end of the facility could have been trouble, but a very good upside of increasing my agility so much this run has made it so I can get off about 4 shots in one use of VATS, which absolutely annihilates just about anything I've had to fight so far. Also, can we appreciate how Doomguy doesn't even look at the Assaultron when firing the last shot? The child of Adam and Turd are of no concern, so I mark the nukes, and then it's back to the Prydwen where, the sentient toaster has escaped, and it's up to me to put him down. I do not give Dance the satisfaction of conversing with me, but rather I just play an overly violent version of peekaboo with him through a broken part of the wall. Maxon is very pleased with my efforts, so not only does he promote me, but he sends me to partake in my favourite pastime, the destruction of the railroad. Except I already did that, so instead I just had to walk back to the church and blow up the wall, because none of the Brotherhood know how to spell apparently. All that leaves is frankly 2 very short missions, so let's finish things up. Mass fusion once again allows me to make use of the air superiority that the Brotherhood just love to drone on about, before taking a rather uninteresting elevator ride down to the bottom floor. It's not like I don't try, mind you, it's just I'm using a shotgun after all. It's not exactly designed to hit anything more than 10 feet away from you. Well, in video games anyway. I get tickled by the invisible death particles for a bit before grabbing the agitator, and now me and Ingram must deal with the Assaultrons and Sentry bots. The Sentry bot paid absolutely no mind to me, and instead seemed to have some sort of vendetta against Ingram. Maybe it knows that she is the one who has to kill it in most of my runs. It's uninteresting me as ultimately its downfall, as I just shoot it repeatedly in the back until it blows up into what may as well be free money. The Assaultrons are also transformed into scrap metal by my magical shotgun, and now it was time for the final quest. For once, I actually get involved in the fighting outside the CIT ruins, as Prime and the rest of the Brotherhood don't just instantly disintegrate every synth that even thinks about setting foot on the ground. It was both a blessing and a curse though, because it left me a little short on ammo when Prime finally remembered where his keys were and unlocked the door. Moving quickly from room to room all the while shooting whoever was in my path made it so that by the time we had cleared out the main area, I was down to 10 shells. I maybe shouldn't have wasted one on Father as we were blowing him up regardless, but oh well. It's common knowledge you don't actually need to kill anyone this final mission, as your allies can do it for you. But that just didn't sit right with me given the run, so I was determined to destroy all of the synths and scientists in the final room. A rather easy solution to most of that problem was, yet again, the BFG. I forgot to stock up on ammo for it beforehand if I'm being honest, so I only had a few shots left. Granted, that still clears out most of the squishies, but as for the legendary enemies, I had only 2 options: fists, or what's left of the minigun. Probably comes as no surprise, but I went with the latter, making for much quicker results. I still had a decent amount of ammo left for it by the end, so I probably could have been a little more gung-ho if I wanted. I did put some of these to good use trying to get rid of the Robo-Child, but unfortunately he exists in some sort of different dimension that allows my bullets to just phase right past him. Regardless, we make it outside, I push the big button, destroying the Institute, loading back and doing it again for a better shot, finishing the game, and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout 4 as the Doomslayer. As I said, there was never a doubt in my mind that this was possible. It was requested a lot, and I mean a lot over the last year and a half, so I just thought I had to get around to it. Plus, you know, it's Christmas, so consider it a gift, and after all, it's all about the journey, not the destination, and I truly hope you enjoyed the journey. Regardless, that's going to be the next challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving a video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe to one of these videos every week. My name's Nerbit, stay safe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.